Hello, I'm Mr. Luchins, elementary principal at Rock Valley Elementary. This is Allie Van Wyk. She's my Title I teacher that I observed. You're observing our post-observation conference here. So thanks for letting me come in and watch you teach and implement numeracy. Can you share a little bit about numeracy and kind of how that works?
Yeah, so kind of using teacher input as well as the A math scores, we'd identified this student as one that could benefit from having numeracy. So numeracy focuses a lot on like number sense, and so it's not going to necessarily going to help you with like measurement or time or things like that. It's just like number sense is the focus. And then based off of their A math score, that kind of gives us an idea of like what stage to try starting them at. Now obviously they kind of overlap, so if you had, say, a student who got a score of 195, they could fall on stage 3, they could fall on stage 4. So then based off of that, I do the benchmark with the student. So I believe I asked her, I did the questions in September for stage 3. She had the majority of them correct, which told me that we probably should start with stage 4. So I did, we began in stage 4, but then I did go back and reteach those 2 skills that she had in stage 3. So that's kind of how we identified her and made the decision of what students to work with, as well as like where we should kind of start her at with skills. This is a student that I worked with in the past, and so I kind of had an idea of where she was at also.
Did she have much slide from the summer to the fall?
She did have a little bit of slide from the summer to the fall. We are now back to where she was at the end of the school year. So that was good to see, because I was a little bit concerned with her as a student that there might have been more of a slide. So the fact that she was able to pick it up a lot faster, or with over the last month, was good to see.
Absolutely. So a lot of good data that goes into that to kind of determine how an individual is selected. To have numeracy, looking at your lesson, what are some areas of strength that you found according to the Iowa teaching standards?
So I would say standard 2, demonstrating competence in the content knowledge appropriate to the teaching position. So using the knowledge from the student's development, kind of where she was at last year, as well as kind of what the data showed us at the beginning of the year, to kind of make those decisions. As well as kind of going into standard 3 of demonstrating competence in planning and preparation. So looking at the specific skills that she has strengths in, as well as the ones that she continues to need to work on, and kind of where she's at with each of those skills also.
But you kind of led me into my next question on the steps that you took for planning the lesson. I mean, you looked at the data here. Can you talk to me about how you kind of came up with the idea of putting the vocabulary word on the math symbols? Is that something you came up with, or how'd you find that?
I
loved it.
I found it. So this is, I think, my 4th year teaching numeracy. There are parts that I love about numeracy. There are parts that, obviously, with every curriculum, that you're like, this could be a little bit better. Yes. So in deciding steps, like, I considered her prior knowledge. I knew that we had worked on this last year together as well, and she'd passed out of it, but then it was kind of an area that she'd obviously regressed a little bit, so we needed to go over again. So I looked at her prior knowledge, and then also with math, a big thing is going from like concrete to abstract. So you do concrete, then representational, and then abstract. So with lessons before you came to observe, we had worked with kind of the concrete, doing it with like manipulative, so she could see actually what 83 looks like as a number, rather than it just being the number itself. And then we kind of moved to the representational. So that's going to be with like the vocab words and being able to see like, I want the alligator mouth to open towards the bigger number, that type of thing, and then eventually going to like your abstract
in the whole thing with numeracy is they want you to get to more the mental side of it instead of manipulatives or gradual build-up?
Yeah. Because the idea is that, like, with math, where we use it most often, we might not necessarily have a pen and paper with us.
Yeah, or cubes.
Right, or cubes to count it out. You know, it's going to be like, it's going to be like, oh, well, I'm out in the grocery store, you know, that's where I'm going to use my rounding of like, okay, you know, this is roughly $5, this is roughly $6, I have $10, do I have enough? You know, that type of situation. So the whole idea of it is being able to, like, do it mentally and doing it accurately and efficiently.
And then what activities do you think foster the most learning in your lesson?
So we kind of only did one activity just with a short amount of time. But I think kind of going back to the previous question of, like, that focus of thinking about going from concrete to abstract, like, we kind of started with representational, where we had the alligator mouse to, like, show which direction you needed to go to, and then eventually we went to just using the symbols, and she had to come up with a vocabulary on her own. I think kind of working through those steps to where it's like you have prompts and a lot of scaffolding, and then you slowly pull them away. I think that's probably your best option of it.
I don't have my notes here from the lesson, but that's what I appreciated, is that it is very much a gradual release where by the end of it, like, you were just placing the cards and then she was answering it, and then you kind of like just prompt her like, and what is the math sentence? And then she'd go through and just read the whole thing. So it really just articulated that she was understanding what you were trying to teach. So then as you get these results now, where do you kind of go from here in terms of future planning?
So with those results, it kind of tells me she might be ready for us to do, like, the progress monitoring step of it. We still do the progress monitoring even if she's not necessarily ready, just kind of to gather that data. Because if we're spending a lot of time on it, that might be, especially if there's a lot of skills we're spending a lot of time on, you know, that might be a sign of, like, we might need additional supports, other things like that. So it's kind of one thing is using that kind of to moving to, okay, I think we have this skill done. We can move to another skill that we need to work on. Another thing that I've added, I actually saw kindergarten kind of doing this, and I thought it's fast the fast fact. Oh no, the fast facts I've done.
Fast facts,
is one thing with numeracy is, like, so the skills kind of build on each other. So, like, I don't have it somewhere. I have a chart of it. I don't know where it went. Oh, here it is. But, like, with some of the stages, like stage 2, focuses on numbers from 0 to 20. Then stage 3 is 0 to 50. Stage 4 is 0 to 120.
We're still working on those.
But then after that, some of the skills will be in multiple areas, and it's like building off of it, and then some of them eventually kind of drop off. Because they are hope that you mastered it. Having taught this for a couple of years, there's certain kids where it's like, because you've been practicing it so much, they have it, but, like, if you don't readdress it, they kind of lose it. And especially sometimes with there being gaps, you know, if I'm working on numbers between 0 to 50 with a 4th grader, they're not necessarily working on 0 to 50 in their class and having a lot of like continued exposure to that. So anyways, one thing I added is they do, like, fast facts, and I was like, that's a great thing to just add, almost like a bell ringer at the beginning. So I kind of go back with, like, previous numeracy levels, and we just do, like, 5 to 6 quick questions of, like, you know, of review from the previous ones, just so we're, like, kind of reiterating it, they're getting it again, since it's not necessarily being hit on continuously. Like, in their
and it gets them started, because these are questions that they have been taught and they probably know. We're just revisiting them a while again. And what I appreciate about that is it's getting the class started in a positive way, right? They're getting some momentum going as you go into a new skill. So, like, oh yeah, like I can do this, I got this. Looking at kind of your post-observation reflection form, if there was anything that you could change about the lesson, is there anything that you would tweak or adjust? Or, I mean, overall, I would say the lesson went really, really well. I thought you had the right scaffolding and supports, and you faded yourself out. Anything that you would change?
For the most part, I felt like the lesson went well too. The one thing was maybe we didn't have a lot of with the numbers that I use, like examples of the equal to.
Sure.
So maybe just adding in a little bit more of that just to make sure she had that.
Yep.
But I think, overall it went well. She had a good grasp by the end of it of like the greater than and less than and what symbols go with it. So.
How are you collaborating and communicating with students, families, and colleagues in the community to enhance student learning in the teaching profession?
Yeah, so with parents, I generally send home like a report every quarter, just
right along with report cards.
Yeah, around that time. I don't necessarily include it in the report cards, but
they got enough information going on in there usually.
Yeah, just so that they're kind of aware of like, hey, this is what we're kind of working on.
Yep.
As well as like at conferences, I'll pop into my different students' conferences and just touch base with parents, kind of discussing like where we started, kind of where we're at right now, what skills we're working on, so that some parents want to work with their kids at home a lot on those skills.
Yeah.
And so if they're wanting to, here are some suggestions of how you could do that.
Yep.
Conferencing with them. With students, we go over kind of this sheet of stages. Every once in a while,
just talk through what it kind of looks like,
and
where
saying
they're headed.
like, okay, here's where we're at. Up here's how many points are in each level. So I'll kind of say like, okay, we have like 15 out of the 19 skills mastered. Here's like the 4 that we're still working on.
Yep.
And we kind of do that after each of the progress monitors too. Of like, okay, we were able to pass out of this one.
Yep.
We're still gonna, kind of keep working on it, but we're gonna shift our focus to
something new. Yep.
So just so that they kind of know where they're at too, and
where they're
also
headed.
we're like, okay, here's our ultimate end goal of where we want to be at, and just also conversation, with some of these levels, like they're working on fractions. Well, in the classroom, fractions is generally something they do a little bit later in the class year, in the school year. So just kind of saying, like, okay, this is something that like hasn't been touched a lot on in your classroom yet. So, it's okay, or even with our progress monitors too, like it's okay if you don't know the answer to this. Like we're just trying to figure out where we're at and where we need to go. Yep. That type of thing.
Okay. Love it. You're great.
Okay.
Last question I have for you is, what is an area of growth that you have identified for yourself?
Yeah, I would say just like continuing to engage in like professional growth. I think as teachers and just learners overall, we can continue. There's always more to learn, right? And if you spend any time in education, there's constantly shifts in the way that things are going. So kind of just staying up to date with those. And just continuing to learn new strategies and collaborating with others, because like I said earlier, like I saw something kindergarten was doing and you're like, oh, hey, I could add that too. We just work better when we have a lot of ideas and input too.
Brains are out there.
So everyone has a different way of looking at it. So
I like that you said that it's changing, because how many times do we hear in math parents say, well, this isn't how I was taught. This isn't how I learned it in school. So I like that point, and then that's something that we'll address kind of going forward. But appreciate you sitting in and describing kind of what you saw. You did a great job. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.